All right, Larry Krueger here from the Pig and a Pickle Krug Show. Big news on Halloween. Chase Young, a 49er. The deal has just come down. And of course, Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. till 8 p.m. or until they run out. Pig and a Pickle, the best barbecue in all of Northern California. All right, Ian Rappaport has put it out there. Sources say former number 2 overall pick, Commanders defensive end Chase Young is being traded to the 49ers. Incredible, likely a mid-round pick in 2024. After dealing Montez Sweat to the Bears, Washington now trades Young to one of the NFL's best teams, the 49ers. If this is true, and I would imagine we have no reason to believe that it isn't, this is an incredible get for the 49ers. Mid-round pick for Chase Young, reuniting Chase Young and Nick Bosa, is absolutely incredible. I mean, this is an absolute revelation for the 49ers. Let's talk a little bit about Chase Young. Chase Young was a really great player at Ohio State. One of the best, one of the very best players in the draft when he came out. And just a guy who can go get the quarterback, and is just a real, dominant player. Went second overall, had some injuries, and has had and they declined his 5th-year option, and now here he is, a 49er. And to me, this is a phenomenal get. I mean, Chase Young is a prototype. And obviously he's had nothing but success. 6'5", 265, really dangerous edge rusher. Guy's got a tremendous get off, incredible first step. He's got a repertoire of moves. You're not talking about a guy who's just some speed rusher or needs to get to the edge. This guy has got pure speed to turn the corner, flatten to the quarterback. He can convert speed to power as good as almost anybody. Great size, great length, great body makeup. I mean, this guy can really wreak havoc. He's got great hand usage. Really well coached. Same guy who coached, Bosa coached Young, and he's got his hands and feet tied together. Always plays with good leverage. Really good. He'll fight you at the line of scrimmage as a run defender. Really tough at the point of attack. This guy can chase down running backs on the backside. The motor continues to rev. Plays with proper pad level. Very quick out of his stance. Instinctive player. Just has a natural feel as an edge rusher. He can shed blocks. He can split doubles. I mean, this guy can do it all. He's been doubled a ton throughout his career, so he understands how to handle a double. And, he's gotten more strength since he came into the league, since he came out of Ohio State. And, the one thing about Chase Young, he'll sometimes bite on some play fakes, but man, this is a tremendous player and a great get. And for a mid-round pick, that's a steal. As a freshman in 2018, Young in Columbus there totaled 19 tackles, 3.5 sacks. He had a forced fumble. He was a backup. A lot of talented upperclassmen were ahead of him. And then, of course, 2018, early in that 2018 season, Nick Bosa went out with the core injury, and but Chase Young stepped in for Bosa and harassed quarterbacks all year. He broke out. He had 10.5 sacks, 15.5 tackles for loss, 34 tackles, 5 passes broken up, couple forced fumbles. I mean, he was just starting to scratch the surface during his sophomore year, took his game to a totally different level as a junior. And that's where you love to see this player, because he improved. He's a student of the game. Kind of rewrote a lot of the record books at Ohio State in that junior year. He had a 2-game suspension for taking a loan from a family member, but then start to finish, the guy dominated in 2019. He was monster in almost every game. Nebraska, Miami of Ohio, Indiana, Cincinnati, Wisconsin just ate all those offensive tackles' lunches. Against Wisconsin, he put together an incredible game. He had 4 sacks, 2 forced fumbles, 6 tackles. I mean, the guy was huge in 2019. 16.5 sacks, 46 tackles, 6 forced fumbles, 3 passes batted down, blocked a kick. I mean, just a real special player. And he just jumps off the screen. He's a prototype. Now the Niners have 2 prototypes. He's truly dominant. I mean, it's really, this guy's got the one thing, there's guys, you can have height, weight, speed, but being a great pass rusher is a skill. And you have to have that innate ability. And he does. He's got the lightning first step. He gets out of his stance. Offensive tackles are on their heels. And then he knows how to read the tackles. He's got great quickness to the edge. He can flatten to the quarterback. He takes an incredible angle to the quarterback. He'll dip that shoulder and flatten to the quarterback, and he's just in the lap of that quarterback. So he can really sink his hips. He can really dip and lower that shoulder and get under offensive tackles and beat them by getting almost parallel to the ground. He also can work inside. He's got some incredible, strength to execute the rip move, to get inside and to knife inside. He'll go, he starts as a bull rusher, then he'll work to the edge, and then he's got the ability to counter back inside and knife inside. So, some of the stuff that you see from Clelin Ferrell, for example, who's really good at knifing inside and being real strong with his hands. Chase Young does a lot of those things, but he also has the speed, to run the loop and get to the quarterback off the edge. So he just puts a ton of pressure on offensive tackles. He could be a little bit better against the run, but he's not a liability. That's for sure. And, you're talking about a guy who, in the wide 9, you get up the field. I mean, you got to maintain some gap integrity, but you're talking about giving Chris Kocurek, who's one of the great coaches of this position, a blue chipper, because that's what he is. This guy was thought to be a franchise changing player who's capable of 10, 12 sacks every year. Guy who's going to be a multiple Pro Bowl player. The thing that I liked about him this year, and the reason I like this trade, is that, there was some question coming into the year how healthy he was and what he would do. And I think he kind of showed that he's incredibly healthy and he's back to being the player that he was. So a lot of people compare him to Julius Peppers, but Peppers was even a bigger bodied guy than this guy. But I mean, just think of some of the great natural rushers we've seen. Myles Garrett, Khalil Mack, Von Miller, Joey Bosa, Nick Bosa, Clowney. I mean, this guy is right there. He's right there with the best of them. So what a pickup. I mean, an incredible addition by the 49ers. This was part of the problem, is that everything, on defense, it is a rush and cover game. You got, and in that order, you got to be able to rush the passer. You got to be able to cover. And, the 49ers have not been able to dial up a rush. They're mid-pack as far as rush. So unbelievable, and that they could get this player. And the fact that, he comes to the 49ers on deadline day. Now, if the Niners can follow that up, it's a 3rd-round pick going back to the Commanders. So Chase Young, who's a free agent at the end of the year, that's the other thing. It's a rental. It's a rental unless you can get him signed long-term. But the same way that I was an advocate of trading for Montez Sweat and signing Montez Sweat, I do the same thing with Chase Young. I have no problem trading for Chase Young and signing Chase Young long-term. Chase Young long-term. So I've been talking so much Trace Jackson Davis with the Warriors that I've got Trace on the brain. But yeah, Chase Young is a blue chipper. Now here's the big question, and I don't want to get in the middle of it. Who's going to wear 99? Chase Young wears 99. There's this other guy, Javon Kinlaw, who wears 99. I don't know, man. I don't know. Is Javon going to give up 99? Is that going to be a source of discontent? I mean, I'm just joking, of course. They'll figure it out. But I wouldn't want to be in the middle of that negotiation. I wouldn't want to fight that out. Who gets it, Javon or Chase? So somebody's going to be wearing 99, but great move by John Lynch. You had to do something. You had to get – the Niners' defense is predicated on getting a rush up front. There is no cavalry coming on the defensive line. It is what it is, so they had to make a move. On the corner, as much as I want to see Jalen Johnson, Sean Murphy-Bunting, Adoree Jackson, somebody like that coming in today as well before the 1 o'clock deadline, which is an hour and 10 minutes away, you still got Samuel Womack. You still got Darrell Luter Jr. You do have some options there at corner internally that you don't have on the defensive line. So that's why defensive line had to be the priority, because you really didn't have any. There's no other options. You're waiting on Robert Beal Jr., very raw rusher out of Georgia with great 4.4 speed, but he's got to be coached up. I mean, he's really, really, really raw. He barely played at Georgia, and then he was hurt most of the summer. You can't rely on that. You cannot rely, if you're in your Super Bowl window, you can't rely on Robert Beal coming off the practice squad in week 10 or something like that to get you by. I mean, you just can't. So now you got Bosa and Chase Young and Hargrave and Armstead. That's your front four. You can play Drake off the bench. You can play Farrell off the bench. You can use these guys as rotation pieces, depth pieces. But, man, you just reunited the great Buckeye tandem of Chase Young and Nick Bosa, and you did it for a third-round draft choice. So I like it. I like it a lot more if they announce a contract extension, because I don't like trading a third-round pick for a few games. But you're inside your Super Bowl window, and you got time to figure that out. And you can see what he looks like in your system, see if he stays healthy, see if he's, if he can produce in your system. But great move by the 49ers for sure, and overwhelming that they would get a player of this stature on trade deadline day. John Lynch strikes again. And you can say what you want about John Lynch. When the Niners hired John Lynch and Kyle Shanahan, I gave Kyle my full endorsement, and I said, I don't know about John Lynch. Nice guy, TBD, as a general manager. But look at the rosters that he's assembled, and look at the moves he's made. Charles Omenihu, Jordan Willis, those were nice pickups. Emmanuel Sanders helped. And then last year getting Christian McCaffrey, and then all their ability to really hit home and come up with big-time players on day 3 of the draft with undrafted free agents. The Niners roster perennially is one of the best rosters in pro football. And John and Peters have put together a formula where, I love the way they handle free agency. They go for difference makers. They let the rank and file free agent walk. They replace those guys by getting compensatory picks. Not only do the Niners have some of the best talent in football, they also have one of the deepest rosters in football, and they're manipulating the compensatory draft formula as well or better than any team in pro football. And they're like the 26th youngest team in the NFL. People saying, the Niners are in their Super Bowl window, and they are. And Trent Williams is got to, if he's going to win a Super Bowl with the Niners, it's got to be this year or next year. Same with George Kittle. It's got to be soon. There's some urgency here. But it's not like this is an old roster. If you're walking around going, well, they're old. No, they're not. They're not old. They're the 26th youngest team in football, and there's 32 teams in the league. So they've got a young roster. It's star-laden. It's incredibly deep. But there's urgency to win the freaking Super Bowl, to get that number 6. And I love this move. Chase Young for a third-round pick is grand theft, and John Lynch ought to be high-fived. If you see John Lynch, give him a high five, because that is a great deal. Great deal, and hopefully he'll be ready to roll in Jacksonville coming out of the bye. All right, thanks to everybody for watching the Krug Show. Thanks to Pig and a Pickle for being the title sponsor. Check them out in Emeryville and Corte Madera. They're open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. to 8 p.m. Get the brisket. Go say hi to Damon and Mary. Tell them the Krug sent you. And thanks to everybody for supporting the Krug Show, the quickly growing Krug Show on YouTube.